Welcome everybody to the SNN Network Summer Virtual Event. I'm your host, Robert Kraft, and I'd like to introduce our next panel here at our event. This panel is titled How Trading in the U.S. Accents Business Objectives. This panel is sponsored by B. Riley Securities, and I'm very excited to introduce our moderator for today's panel. It is Becky Popoff. She is the Vice President at B. Riley Securities. And with that, Becky, take it away.
Thank you, Bobby, and thank you to everyone joining us today. It's so great to be back moderating another fantastic SNN event. I've had the honor to speak at the last two events this year around what it takes to establish trading on the OTC. Now, I work with companies on a daily basis as their OTC sponsor and successfully making this happen, which makes this panel that much more exciting. I've had the pleasure of working with each panelist on establishing trading on the OTC. And today's panel topic, as Bobby said, is how trading in the US accents business objectives. Now, each of our panelists brings a unique perspective to their strategic goals around establishing trading in the US. So with that said, let's have our panelists introduce themselves. We have CEO Hunter Hosley with Bitwise Asset Management. Please kick us off, Hunter.
Hey, great to be with you all. Nice to see you, Becky. I'm Hunter Hosley. I'm the CEO at Bitwise. We're the largest cryptocurrency index fund manager in the world today. We manage over $1 billion in assets. Our flagship fund, the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, publicly trades with ticker BITW on OTC markets. In general, Bitwise as a firm works with financial advisors, fund managers, high net worth individuals to get access to the different parts of the crypto space, from Bitcoin to Ethereum, to DeFi and public equities.
Great, thank you so much, Hunter. Now I'd like to introduce Rick Revelins, Executive Director for First AU Limited.
Hi, Becky. Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm Richard Revelins. I'm a Director of First AU. We're a mining and exploration company listed on the Australian Securities Exchange and also dual listed on OTCQB under the ticker symbol FRSAF. And we have some very prospective mining projects, both in Victoria and in the Kalgoorlie region. And these projects are in areas where there are known gold deposits, some of which are the richest in the world. So we're a small cap company, but with very exciting prospects to explore.
Wonderful, thank you, Rick. And last but not least, we have CEO Raouf Pauline with Spectra 7's Microsystems, Inc.
Hi, Becky, and thank you for having me on this panel today. Spectra 7 is a microcap analog semiconductor company based in San Jose, California. We develop very high performance analog semiconductors that get embedded inside copper cabling for a variety of end markets, including consumer markets, as well as data center infrastructure. The opportunity before us is huge. It's great to be trading on the OTC and to be listed on Toronto Stock Ventures, and good to be with you today. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you, Raouf. So to start today's discussion, I'd love to start with Bitwise. Hunter, we worked together and officially had you trading in December of 2020. Now, the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund was the first publicly traded crypto index fund in the US. And since launching on the QX, the fund's price has gone from $12 to $46 and probably still changing to the second. And, you know, I'd really love to understand, specific to this fund, why you felt it important to open up easier ways to access crypto through this direct listing.
Yeah, absolutely. We were incredibly excited as back in December, you remember, and still fresh in mind for me for public trading to commence. When it comes to crypto, there's a huge portion of the investing world today who has it on their to-do list. They see the potential of digital assets. They see some of the smartest investors in the US taking positions in the space, but it's very complicated to navigate crypto. And I think strategies like the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund make that simpler. And the public trading of the shares of the fund really simplifies for certain investors a way to get exposure, being able to access shares through existing brokerage accounts, to have it show up on statements, to use workflows that are already in place versus having to set up completely new processes is really important for a lot of investors who want to participate, but don't have a ton of time to spend changing the way that they run their portfolios and businesses. So the public quotation and trading through OTCQX, I think, has been enabling for a lot of investors who wanted to own shares in the fund.
No, that's great. And obviously, we've seen so much growth. And so it was obviously wonderful working with you on that and getting you there. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears now over to Mr. Revelins with First AU. As Rick said, First AU is an ASX listed company based in Australia and established secondary trading on the OTCQB in April of 2021. So Rick, what I'd love to know is what motivated First AU to seek this cross trade and establish this on the OTCQB market?
Well, prior to cross trading here, we were trading on the Australian Securities Exchange, and our assets are all domiciled in Australia, and we're in two of the, you'd say, the richest gold regions of that country, one being Kalgoorlie and the other one being Victoria, where I'm from, Victoria originally. I've been living here now for a while. And what we realized is that our mineralization was very, very similar geologically to what we have observed out at Fosterville, which is Kirkland Lake. And I think everyone who is in that Victorian goldfields region would like to be the next Kirkland Lake. It's the richest gold mine in the world right now, and probably the most profitable as well. And we're at an early stage of that, but most of the investors who've invested in Kirkland Lake, and it's a $10.3 billion market cap company now, have come from North America, being predominantly the US and Canada. And our thoughts were that now that our assets are in an area which will attract investment from North America, we thought the right place would be to be listed on a North American exchange.
Raouf, does your OTCQB quotation facilitate access to investors who understand and align with your end product markets?
Yeah, so Becky, what we have experienced for the last 5 years is that although the markets in Canada accept the story, understand it, and there's a fairly broad spectrum of healthy funds as well as high net worth individuals who have invested in Spectra 7, fact is that the North American, particularly the US investor, aligns much more with our business as it stands today, meaning our end customers are predominantly North Americans. Those would be operators, the ilks of the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts, the Facebooks, Apple, and so forth, as well as obviously large operators in China. The investor community in the US is particularly tech savvy and align with those end markets and understand the fundamental drivers that make those incredibly attractive, high growth, high value markets. And so we're really, although we're technically domiciled in Canada, and our primary listing, as you mentioned, is on the Toronto Stock Exchange Ventures. Fact is, the bulk of the investor base that gets it and wants to invest in Spectra 7 is US investors. And so having that secondary OTC trading platform is extremely valuable for us because it creates access to those markets and to people who really understand, the ecosystem, see top to bottom, already are heavily invested in the space. So it aligns perfectly with our growth strategy.
That's great. And at what point did you realize that you wanted to establish that secondary trading and make that come to fruition?
Well, we've been wanting to do this, Becky, for a couple of years. A couple of things got in our way. COVID got in our way last year. So everything went sideways. Unfortunately, our business, as well as many, many others, had a difficult year. We got through 2020 quite successfully and came out swinging with huge success in our end-served data center markets with hyperscalers, the ilks of the names I just rattled off. And now we're positioned not only from a growth perspective, but particularly desirous to tap these US markets through the secondary listing. So the timing is right for us.
Perfect. I love it. Okay, so now I'm going to circle back to Hunter with Bitwise. Hunter, you're my only domestic company on the panel today. So the process of a direct listing versus, say, our establishing secondary trading on the OTC may differ in some regard with your end results. So what we've noticed is you've really created the success around your current fund trading on the QX. So my question to you is, do you think by the success of this first fund, will you want to open up trading to more assets on the OTC?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as I mentioned, lot of investors are trying to figure out how they can take advantage of the opportunities in the crypto space, which is a nascent and emerging space. And what we've seen with the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, which is the fund that trades the ticker BITW, is that having a public secondary market that's quoted through OTC markets has been hugely valuable for investors. So with the success we've seen through this product, we expect that we will pursue or support other 211 filings for additional products in the future, where facilitating the secondary market would be very beneficial in simplifying the ways investors can get exposure.
Absolutely. And now, have you seen feedback or heard feedback from your investors about just positivity behind having this fund and being able to trade it on the OTC?
Absolutely. I mean, when it first started trading in December, it made headlines. The fact that it publicly trades, I think, is a huge value add and differentiating aspect of the Bitwise 10. So absolutely, a ton of value created there. And you know, this is sort of specific to the context Bitwise operates in, and Rick and Raouf, you know, quite likely different from your context, but for crypto, which is again such a complex space, being able to participate through familiar structures, through securities that can be traded through existing brokerage counterparties, is really valuable to people who are busy, who have limited appetites for novel complexity, but don't want to be left behind in the opportunities that are emerging here. So see and have gotten feedback that there's a ton of value in the public trading through OTCQX, and expect to pursue that for more products in the future. Today we have a Bitwise DeFi index fund. We have a Bitwise. We have funds for some specific coins. And those are all products that I expect we'll contemplate seeking public quotation for in the future.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully we'll get to work with you on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Rick, I want to dive a little bit deeper into your secondary quotation. Given that the TSX and the TSX-V are known for mining and exploration, why did you elect to trade on the OTCQB rather than, say, on the TSX-V?
Actually, that's actually a very good question, Becky, and one that we've been asked previously. And it's well known that TSX and the TSX-V are very big mining markets, as is the ASX. And I think the issue we saw there, there's a element of technical complexity in dual listing on TSX-V that I haven't found as complicated as OTC markets. And secondly, there's a plethora of small cap mining companies on the TSX-V. And the question is, how do you get yourself heard above that noise when there are so many companies there trying to get some attention? And our thought was that, look, if we're trading here in the US and we're on the OTCQB, that gives us visibility in the US markets. People can see us there. If they want to buy the stock, whether they're in Canada or they're in the US, they can do that because those two markets tend to be accessible to US investors who have accounts established in these markets. So that was really the primary rationale behind it. I mean, TSX-V is a great market, but it's just very hard to get heard above the noise. And so we elected to come to the OTC because we thought we could stand out a little more in that market and not have as much competition around us.
Absolutely. And, you know, I also noticed that First AU is proposing to file for DTC eligibility, which is, you know, a big topic here in the US, having to go through the DTC eligibility process. Now, what was the thought process for you at First AU to go down this path, and how complex has this process been for an Australian company?
Well, as you know, Becky, I probably have a little more expertise in this area than other people because as an investment banker, I've helped about a dozen companies go through that process. So from my perspective, and Robert and Raouf might have a different view on this, but from my perspective, I wouldn't entertain listing on OTC markets without doing DTC. And for those people who don't know what that is, that's the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. And once you are listed on these markets, you can apply to DTC for what they call DTC eligibility. And that enables companies to trade electronically between the domestic market and the US market, and brokers can, it's far easier to trade, it's far quicker, and it's far cheaper. And that's why we're proceeding with the DTC application. In fact, we lodged our application some time ago, and we expect it'll be approved probably in the next, I'm thinking in the next sort of 3 weeks.
Well, that's great. And then what we call all the plumbing will be done, and you'll officially have all you need to successfully keep the trading going with having that DTC eligibility.
Well, absolutely, because it just allows people to settle quicker and cheaper. And that is what it's all about, making it easier and seamless for both investors and broker dealers to trade in your securities.
Absolutely. Well, love to hear what's going to happen next. And obviously, I know your presence in the Australian and the US market will obviously bring us working together again soon. So great to hear the path moving forward.
Always great working with you, Becky, I must say.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, back to Raouf with Spectra 7. So one of the main reasons we started talking, and the main reason you wanted to join the QB, was to access US investors. And so I'm curious, have conversations with potential US investors been more productive since you started trading on the OTC?
Well, absolutely. They certainly have. Both conversations with bankers as well as directly with investors have really now taken on a different tone. Just the access and the ability, has been mentioned before, for US investors to acquire and custody the shares with brokers that they already have accounts with, right? Just that one shift really opens up the market for us and has made us much more attractive and made those conversations more productive, in the sense that people are now able to participate in the story. They see the progress the company's making, they see it's accessible to them, they see it's easy to custody at Fidelity and E-Trade, you name it. The confluence of the business itself with this secondary trading is really been quite powerful, and the conversations have certainly taken on a tone of far greater seriousness and have been a lot more productive for us.
That's great. And I guess that kind of works into have US bankers become more engaged since you started trading on the OTC.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. They certainly have. The phone's been ringing. The phone's been ringing. We've been approached a lot by US bankers who in the past have been hesitant to engage with us, simply because we're not only domiciled, but also listed exclusively in Canada. Again, not a problem with the underlying exchanges, but the problem is mechanically it's hard to acquire and custody the shares for US investors. Now, all of a sudden, the pathway is open. Not necessarily that we're about to do anything or necessarily interested in concluding any transactions anytime soon, but we are definitely hearing from US bankers right and left. They see this as a much more interesting and viable engagement with us.
And that's wonderful. And obviously that's the goal behind this, is to really understand how this all can circle back to how trading accents your business objectives from the get-go. And I guess that could kind of cross over to Rick and Hunter too. I mean, obviously, the goal is to get in front of US investors and start trading. Have you seen more productivity on your side once trading started? And I'll let Rick, why don't you go ahead first?
Well, Becky, that's really one of the big things. It's not only to be visible in front of investors, it's to be visible in front of institutions and banks and so forth. And at our stage of development, look, we're a long way away from project finance. We're still at the exploration stage in Victoria. We have JORC-defined resources in Western Australia, which is akin to the NI 43101 designation. So that's a development project at this stage, and we're looking at early mining processes for that. But part of this visibility is all about being seen in the US market, being able to talk in real time in a market that's accessible to US banks and investors and funders. So when that time is ready, we have a ready-made base of people that we're already talking to that know us, and we've put in the groundwork for those relationships to be built.
Absolutely. How about you, Hunter?
I think public quotation is an incredible asset for awareness. Having the fund be viewable in terminals and again, our audience as in many cases investment professionals, high net worth individuals, being able to pull it up in their wherever they go to look at stock prices. For reporters being able to follow it more simply. Even that alone does huge things for awareness of the fund. And as I mentioned previously, the ease of access for investors who want to participate in the secondary market has been a real breakthrough. I think the fund, when it first started trading, had about 100 million in assets, and today it has closer to $1 billion. And we're about 6 months later here. So it's the largest cryptocurrency index fund today, and the public trading is, I think, an important feature of why people are drawn to it. Now, of course, it has creates a lot of value in the way that the fund is operated. So public trading is just a part of the story, but I think a very valuable part of it, and has facilitated awareness.
No, that's wonderful. And that around the awareness topic, that kind of brings up a question I wanted to ask to each of you is, establishing trading is the first hurdle, right? We do all this work to essentially get you cross-traded for Spectra 7 and First AU. We went through specific steps in order to establish the secondary trading. For Bitwise, as a direct listing, so is a little bit more extensive of a process and in getting there. So we do all this hard work to get you trading, but the next step is really the most important step, and that is market awareness and how you reach those US investors once you start trading. And obviously that's something you have to keep up with on a daily basis. So I'd be curious to understand if each of you have a plan in place, how you feel about the market awareness, if there's things you want to be doing that you're not, and just kind of open the conversation to understand that aspect of the trading. So who'd ever like to jump in?
I'll jump in first. I'm always never scared of getting my feet wet. That's a really important topic, and it's a topic that goes hand in hand with your listing, because if you're not prepared to put the time and the effort and also the money into market awareness, then there's no point in having the listing. We're somewhat different to the other companies in that we tend to go up and down depending on events, and our events are always kind of flagged beforehand. For instance, we'll have a drilling program planned, and generally what happens is the stock runs up prior to the program because people are expecting you are going to commence drilling, and if they think the results are going to be good, that's when they get excited about buying the shares. And that's we kind of promote on that basis. And I know promote's not a word that's well understood in the US. I mean, you call it marketing, but it really is promoting the company to investors. And we do that around these significant events. And so for us, it was important. We've got a very good bunch of guys working with us at Integris, and they actually have staff that are geologically qualified. So for us, that makes that work a lot better because it's an area where they're qualified. They have investors and people who deal in that area. So it means getting the message across is a lot simpler. And also participating in events like these SNN conferences where there are a lot of MicroCap investors, that's very attractive to us also.
Absolutely. And now, Hunter, your sector is obviously, very different than metals and mining or technology. You know, it's very specific, and obviously we have a lot of people still learning about crypto. So is there any differences to how you hit the world with your market awareness?
I think that the Bitwise is an organization. So, you know, mentioned previously, we're one of the largest crypto asset managers. We do a huge amount already to educate investors. We have, you know, research and resources on our site. We put out a monthly letter. We frequently comment in the media. And the way I sort of view the public quotation was that we were already doing a lot to engage with our audiences, but it was difficult for them, you know, difficult for some of them to find our products or to access those investment products. And so I think we sort of had a lot of the education already in place, and the public quotation sort of then supported investors finding us more easily. The other thing I'd note about, you know, public quotation from my perspective is the reporting requirements and you know, in conjunction disclosure requirements. I think give a lot of investors comfort, particularly in a place like crypto where you know, they're less certain of what they're dealing with. So the disclosures produced in conjunction with public quotation, I think also helped with has also helped with investor familiarity and education and comfort. But I think that we are already doing a lot to engage with our audiences, and the public quotation sort of fell into place as helping more people find us once they'd already heard about us.
That's great. And for someone who's not as familiar with crypto, is there an easy way to explain to our audience, you know, the benefits behind investing in a crypto fund?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think most individuals and investment professionals today are sort of looking at what's going on in the world, be it stimulus, be it, you know, concerns about inflation, jobs, low interest rates. And as a result of that, they're looking at equities and they're saying, you know, these are pretty fully priced. This is a pretty fully priced equity market, and the fixed income market isn't producing much in terms of yield. We're not comfortable leaving a lot in cash because inflation's at 5.4. So what are we supposed to do to protect our wealth or our portfolio, to grow it? And amidst that environment that's emerged out of the developments of 2020, a lot of investors are saying, maybe I need to do something different than what I did before. Maybe the tried and true decade of 60-40 that I used to navigate the prior 10 years is not what's going to help me navigate the next period and the landscape that we have today. And maybe crypto has a role to play in that. And so that's how a lot of people today come to looking at crypto. And the thing that it can do for a lot of investors is at small sizes, at 0.5 percentage point or 5 percentage points, it depends on the investor, it can do really powerful things for a portfolio in terms of adding returns, putting a low correlated asset into the portfolio that reduces volatility in conjunction with other assets, and contributing those things even in small doses, right? You don't have to move, you know, 15% of your portfolio out of emerging markets or international equities into something else. For most investors, crypto is a 1 to 10% pursuit, or, you know, 0.5% to 5%. So I think a lot of investors find usefulness in that framing. But then there's a question of, you know, I think crypto is here to stay. I think Bitcoin is compelling. I think there's this other thing, Ethereum. I've heard that there are other things being developed. I don't know if this is AOL or if this is Microsoft or if this is Google. I don't know how it's all going to play out. I want to participate. I want exposure. I see what it can do for portfolios. But then the question is, how? How should I do that? How should I take advantage of it? And again, you know, I think for many investors, the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, it holds the top 10 assets, rebalances it monthly. It's professionally managed. We take care of security and custody and trading and taxes, and you just hold a familiar security. I think that's appealing to a lot of investors. There are other ways that people do things. And then the public secondary market extends that sort of familiar way of accessing it. So that's a bit of the journey that a lot of investors go on. And fast forward to today, we have over 250 RIAs invested in various products of ours, over 25 institutional managers, over 2,000 family offices and high net worth individuals. You've probably seen headlines about Paul Tudor Jones and the Fairfax pensions and most of the top 20 endowments investing in crypto. So there's been a huge uptick over the last 12 months as the world has sort of changed. And investors are saying, what could I be doing differently to equip myself for where we are and what's coming? So that's how people sort of approach thinking about a crypto investment.
That's great. Thank you. And Raouf, how about yourself? You know, now that you're officially trading in the US, how has market awareness affected you, and how are you approaching that as you get yourself out there in front of more US investors?
It's questions for me, Becky, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think much has already been said, but truthfully, having that trading capability in the US is critical and necessary, but it's far from sufficient. And what we're doing is really starting to tap into what is a fairly sophisticated and data center or hyperscaler savvy investor community, right? These are folks that have participated and greatly benefit from tremendous growth and return of platforms, the ilks of the Apples and the Facebooks and the Googles and so on and so forth. And they have an understanding of the value proposition in terms of this whole ultra low power green construct that we are enabling at Spectra 7 with our low power connectivity technology. And as we start reaching out to these investors now with a trading platform capability behind us, they can clearly appreciate the value proposition the company brings: ultra low power, energy savings, and clearly the lower cost of this category of active copper cabling that Spectra 7 pioneered is now deploying in high volumes. And so we find it to be very effective, the fact that we have this trading platform. And then secondly, the fact that we're able to reach out so efficiently through this outreach campaign, both with organic internal resources, as well as obviously working with IR firms in the US. It's proving to be very effective. A lot of momentum now for the story.
No, it's great. And obviously the one thing that we all do for market awareness is we come to Robert and Shelley Kraft at SNN, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
They are our market awareness gurus. No, that's great. I think everybody here, we're all in different sectors, everyone's doing different things, but the end goal is the same. So it's really just interesting to hear everybody's stories and figure out ways to successfully, trade and get their story out there. So it's been really great working with each of you in getting you there. And, I love watching each of your stories continue to grow success. So, it's been an honor for me to work with each of you. And, obviously with all the viewers out there watching, I'd love to give everybody the opportunity to get in touch with you if they have any questions specific to each of your companies. So if you wouldn't mind just giving our audience the best place to reach you, and we'll put a slide up at the end of this panel as well, so you can take that down. Rick?
Yes, anyone who goes to the OTCQB website and looks at our stock, First AU, under the ticker code FRSAF. And generally, you'll find my contact details on the bottom of virtually every ASX announcement. And we've got our whole geological team in Australia who, if people want to dig into the weeds, they're always available also.
Perfect. Thank you. How about you, Raouf?
Yeah, so the best place again is OTC. You can see our symbol SPVNF. Lots of information available there. Clearly on our website, spectra7.com, in the Investor Relations tab, you'll find our presentation. Always contact me or our Investor Relations team. We're happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And Hunter, how about you?
Great. Yep. The ticker is BITW. You can type it in, wherever you look at tickers. The website is bitwiseinvestments.com. That has information on the Bitwise 10 fund as well as other funds. And for investment professionals, we have regional investment consultants And there's information on how to contact those individuals on our website. So lots of information there, as well as just basic educational information on the crypto space as well.
Perfect. And everyone's presenting over the course of the next couple of days, correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I look forward to tuning in. Thank you to the SNN team, and we look forward to seeing everybody soon.
Thank you, Becky.
Thanks, Becky.
Thanks,
Becky.
guys. Thank you.